Earth to Autumn! Quit staring at my lame-o brother and listen to me! I turned and looked at her. Boy, I hope I wasn't blushing. Yeah, sorry, I muttered out. She shook her head at me. Brr, it's gotten so cold. She wrapped her jacket tighter around her. Anyway, y'all excited for my sleepover this weekend? So you're still bringing your suitcase full of your cool Chicago clothes along, right? Sure, it'll be all yours. I smiled, unable to stop myself from trying to spot her brother out of the corner of my eye. And you promise you'll set up alone time for me and Seth whenever I winked at you? I confirmed. Course, you can count on me. Just no kissing in front of me. Yuck. So I'm Autumn, and I'm a Chicago girl now living in small-town Texas. You see, after the first lockdown was lifted, we moved here so my parents could take care of my granny. Now, I'm at a new school, but luckily for me, everyone seems nice. Especially this girl who sits next to me in French class, Lillian. She's never been out of Texas, so she loves hearing my stories about the Sky Deck and the Lollapalooza Festival. Better still, she has the hottest twin brother ever called Seth. He's cuter than Justin Bieber. I could just stare at him all day. Texas is known for lots of things. Scorching hot weather, barbecues, and rodeos. But snow is not one of them. Weirdly, this winter, a snowstorm was expected. And naturally, Lillian was as excited as a little kid on the eve of her birthday. Ugh, to cold weather. I was done with it. But I could hardly turn down a sleepover when Seth would be there, could I? This was the perfect opportunity to get closer to him. I mean, no single guy could reject a girl who confesses their feelings on the first snow day, especially not one from sunny Texas. I could be his real-life snow princess. Lillian then started rambling on about all her weekend plans. Her over-the-top anticipation was so funny. I mean, it was only snow. But I suppose for a girl who didn't even own rain boots, this was as important an occasion as Thanksgiving. I might not have been a jitterbug of excitement at the thought of seeing snow, but I was eager, and albeit a little nervous, to see Seth. We all would spend a weekend together in Lillian's family's holiday cottage. And no parents around. Yep, an adult-free zone. That sounds like heaven, right? That morning, Trevor and Lillian came to pick me up. Lillian was extra hyped upon seeing my massive suitcase of winter clothes that I've promised her. And she alone was able to throw it in the car's trunk with zero struggle. She must love it a lot, huh? Oh yeah, sorry. I forgot to mention Trevor. He's this nerdy boy in our class, as well as a good friend of Seth. Everyone knows he has a crush on Lillian, but it's obvious she doesn't like him. She just wanted an errand boy. So it wasn't too surprising that he would join us on this occasion, and that he would voluntarily drive Lillian, and me too, I guess, to the place. Okay, before you ask, Seth has already arrived at the cottage since he had to bring over food and prepping stuff. So don't worry, you'll get to meet your Prince Charming soon. Lillian playfully nudged me. I tried my best to pretend to be unfazed by her joke, but just the thought of Seth made my heart race all over again. We arrived at a beautiful wooden house just outside of town. I excitedly opened the door and ventured inside, trying to find Seth. Oh, there he was, out in the backyard, toasting marshmallows. And how adorable he looked in that sweater. But, oh, he wasn't alone. Another girl was sitting next to him. Seeing my confusion, Lillian led me outside. Autumn, this is our cousin, Charlie. Lillian pointed at the girl. And here is Seth, in case you didn't know. She teased me. Jesus, Lillian, keep it low-key. She left me as red as a tomato again. Then she winked at me and shooed us two to go inside to prepare drinks and salad, while she and Trevor took care of the barbecue. So we did. And then I even helped Seth decorate the place with these cute twinkling lights. Romantic, right? Well, it would have been if Charlie wasn't here. She wouldn't leave him alone for a second. She didn't help out. She just sat there painting her nails. Ugh, geez, couldn't she get the hint? So when Seth went to the bathroom, I walked up to her, and forcing a smile, I said, "Hey, It's boring in here. Why don't you go outside? Nah, I'm good. She studied her newly painted nails. Lillian needs private time with her friend. Besides, Seth isn't comfortable around strangers. What? I went to the same school as him, so I was hardly a stranger. This girl was ruining my plans. Ugh, no, she was ruining my life. So far, my night wasn't exactly going to plan. Not only wouldn't Charlie let me anywhere near Seth, but she was acting weird around him. She actually took the bun off his burger and squirted sauce on it. Jeez, what was she, his mom? Then there was Trevor, who looked absolutely petrified as Lillian, on being attacked by some insect, clung to his arm. Huh? I thought he liked her. Whatever. I needed alone time with Seth, so I winked over at Lillian, but she just gave me this vacant look. I tried kicking her under the table, but she moved her foot away and still seemed oblivious. I'd had enough of this, so I went inside to make a hot chocolate. I heard footsteps behind me. Thinking it was Seth, I turned around ready to flirt. But, oh, it was just Trevor. When you go back over to your sweet Lillian, please tell her I don't have something in my eye. Instead, I was trying to make eye contact with her. Trevor grumbled out, "Tell her yourself. She's not my Lillian. I came here for another reason." Hey, why so grumpy all of a sudden? Jeez, I was just joking. He paused for a moment before he said, Autumn, I like you, but Lillian just told me you like Seth, so I can't wait. Confused, I replied, Hold on, so you're telling me that you like me, not Lillian? Yeah, but your Seth plan will never work. Enough. I don't like you, now leave me alone. I stormed off, ready to impress the guy I actually like, instead of wasting my time with this nerd. Lillian's voice outside stopped me. What were you thinking? Why did you kiss Charlie? She's supposed to be our cousin. But she's not. And chill. Autumn isn't around anyway. Seth shrugged. She could walk out at any moment. We made a deal, so don't mess it up, else I want my money back. What the? I felt the anger build up inside of me. I'm pretty sure smoke was coming out of my ears. I was about to walk out there to confront them when a hand pulled me back. I tried to tell you, but you didn't listen. Lillian is playing you just for your Chicago clothes suitcase. She loves it. And Seth is dating Charlie. They're both parts of Lillian's plan. She's paid them. Wow, this hurt. There I was thinking I had a great new friend and a potential new boyfriend, but it was all a trick. And for what? A suitcase with a few nice coats in it? I was deliberating what to do next when my phone beeped. It was a weather update. Turns out, the snowstorm was predicted to come sooner and be far worse than originally expected. Then all of our phones started buzzing. It was our parents. They told us to stay inside no matter what, and to make sure we closed all of the doors and windows. The storm soon arrived with vengeance. At first, the others seemed fascinated with staring out of the window at the snowflakes. Not me. Nope. I was just annoyed I couldn't escape these fake people and go home. We gathered around and set up a den in the living room. It was all okay until the phone signal started to go on and off. Then the internet went off completely. Lillian actually let out a scream and banged her phone screen when she realized her latest Instagram photo hadn't finished posting yet. Poor Trevor had to comfort her. It was time to make this night interesting. So smiling, I said, I know what will take your mind off it. Let's play truth or dare. Then I cuddled up to Seth and in a soft tone spoke. Seth, the storm is really freaking me out. He gave an awkward look but replied, It's cool. I'll look after you. Then he placed his arm around me. I looked over at Charlie. She didn't look bothered. Huh? That was odd. So when it was my turn to ask Charlie a truth, I said, I heard Lillian got that scar on her knee during a family trip. Could you tell us that story? Lillian flustered out. OMG, Autumn, your questions are so lame. You're wasting your turn. Charlie looked stunned at first, but then she quickly pulled herself together, laughed, then said, Yeah, Lillian's a goofball and trips over all the time. That time, we kids were having a soccer race, but Miss Competitive over here overdid it and ended up falling flat on the ground. Okay. So she didn't crack, but nor did she actually answer the question. Let's see how long you can keep up that fake facade for. As the night continued, the others seemed to be having a good time. Not me, though. I was still bitter about the whole situation. I was made to look like a fool by not only my friend, but also my crush, and his silly little GF. The annoying thing is if Lillian had just asked me, I would have let her keep whatever she wanted anyway, because I thought we were friends. Lillian started yawning, then announced she was going to bed. No way am I sharing a bedroom with that traitor. And my love rival? No thanks. So I refused to move. But where will you sleep? Don't be ridiculous, Autumn. Yeah, come on in. You'll freeze to death down there. I'm fine. Just go. I'm a Chicago girl, remember? Do you call this a storm? Please. I've been through colder summer days. I smirked. But they kept going on and on. Nice try. As if you guys really care. Gotta give credit for their acting, though. Then at least let's get you some warmer clothes. I agree. But her suitcase is still in Trevor's car. I have an idea. She winked at me, then yelled up the hallway, Seth, could you please help Autumn get her winter clothes from Trev's car? Are you mental? It's freezing out there. And pitch black. You girls are so annoying. Eventually, Lillian and Charlie gave up trying to persuade me and threw me a blanket. Finally, some alone time away from those fakes. I curled up on the couch and took a deep breath to fall asleep. Only half an hour later, I was still tossing and turning. I had a lot on my mind, and the wind outside was howling. At that point, I pretty much had my head between my knees, trying to preserve my body heat. Jeez. It has for sure gotten colder. Then suddenly, I heard 3 consecutive knocks on the door. A chill ran down my spine. I must have misheard it, right? I held my breath to listen, and there came another 3 knocks. Oh my gosh, who could it be at this time? And in these conditions? All roads were blocked by snow. No one in their right mind would go outside in this weather. But that banging on the door still persisted and was only getting louder and louder. Could it be Yeti? I hugged my blanket and willed it to stop. But of course it didn't. I couldn't sleep in this frantic noise either, so Yeti or no Yeti, I needed to go check it out. So I crept over to the door. A rush of panic swam through me, as with a shaking hand I slightly opened it. Huh? Trevor? Yep, it wasn't any snowy monster. It was Trevor, about to faint from the cold, but his hands were still holding tightly onto something. Trembling, he said, Here you go. Put on some more clothes. You'll catch a cold. Then he passed me my suitcase. Oh, God, you're crazy, Trevor. You are the one who's catching all the cold right now. I immediately sat him down on the couch and placed the blanket around him, then quickly opened my suitcase. Here they are, my secret weapon. Heat packs. I gave him some and got him another coat that wasn't covered in snow. Here, drink this first. I'll go make you a cup of cocoa. I began pouring him a cup of warm water out of my thermal bottle, but he stopped me. Power, out. He shivered out. Well, that explained why it felt like a freezer in here. And no more hot cocoa then. Hey, so I'm Autumn, and this is part 2 of my story. If you haven't seen part 1, you should go and check it out. Don't be fooled by my name. It was definitely winter here in Texas. And this storm was insane. Shame I was stuck in a holiday cottage with my treacherous best friend Lillian, her lying twin Seth, and his secret girlfriend Charlie. Ugh. Turns out, Lillian just wanted my Chicago clothes, and everyone besides Trevor was in on it. back to Trevor. And I didn't want his death on my watch, so I rubbed his arms in a bid to defreeze him. When he looked like he'd thawed out a little, I raised an eyebrow and asked him, "Why did you go outside in this?" Well, the power went out. I knew it'd be Antarctica for you in here without a heater, so I wanted to go get you the suitcase. But I ended up locked out, so I had no choice but to wake you up to get in. I'm sorry." "What are you sorry about? It was just a little dumb of you." After that, we chatted about stuff. To be honest, I was super touched by what he did. While everyone was still deep asleep, here he was, thinking about me and risking his life to help me. Okay, so maybe I was a little harsh to him earlier when he confessed that he liked me. But hey, that could still just be him trolling me. I mean, I have a valid reason not to trust anyone under this roof anymore. I guess I must have fallen asleep as, the next morning, I woke up to Lillian frantically shaking me. "Hey! Wake up! We're in big trouble!" Oh, so they'd finally noticed the power was out. I passed everyone jackets and heat packs from my suitcase. Look, guys, layering up in these conditions is vital. Then I looked at Seth and Trevor. Even if that does mean wearing my pink pom-pom hat and squeezing into my rainbow-padded coat. We couldn't help but burst out laughing. At least there's something fun to brighten up this situation. Then we started prepping to face this apocalypse. And I was the captain. Because, hey, I'm the one who had the most experience with snow around here. Time was of the essence, so I quickly went to check the faucet. Luckily, the water was still running, though the flow was a little weak. Quick, get anything that can contain water. We should store as much as we can before the pipes freeze up. Ugh, look at Seth and Charlie, being all playful and flirty, forming a bucket brigade, with Lillian too. What a thorn in the eyes. So I threw them some towels I'd found and ordered them to go windproof all the doors and windows instead, as Trevor could handle this water storage thing alone. Meanwhile, I checked on our food situation. Fortunately, we've brought enough for 2 days, but it's all frozen now, and we had to ration the food in moderation, as who knows how long this lockdown could be. Hey, should we try using that fireplace? It's freezing, even with these jackets on. Yeah, Seth, why don't you figure it out? Then we started cleaning up all the stuff in front of the fireplace, so Seth could give it a try. But oh boy, what did I expect? The most he managed to make was black smoke. Forget it. This is probably just a decorative fireplace. Y'all so dumb. Then Trevor appeared out of the basement with an armful of wood. No, for sure it's usable. Look, I even found wood and coal stored here. Let me try. He knelt down in front of the fireplace and started clearing the blockage to the chimney. After some time, it worked. Whoa, we had fire! We all whooped and jumped about like lunatics. Then Lillian wrapped her arms around Trevor's neck and kissed him on the cheek. Blushing, he immediately wiped it off with his hand, which then left some coal stains on his face. It was so funny. Trevor was our true hero again. While Seth... Well, thank God I didn't have a crush on that loser anymore. Poor Charlie. Have fun being stuck with that useless dude. Thanks to Trevor, we now had a fire to keep warm and to cook our food on. So we'd be fine, right? Oh no! My phone's dead! Just when I think I caught a tiny bit of signal. Gimme! Don't you know we can charge your phone with fruits? Seth grabbed Lillian's phone and charger and took them into the kitchen. Now that's strange. He has never looked so enthusiastic doing anything helpful during the past 2 days. He was probably trying to save his face after losing to Trevor so many times. Ha! I watched on with amusement as Seth stabbed the charger into a banana. What did I ever see in this guy again? Trevor burst out laughing, and Charlie sighed, then went off to prepare soup for dinner. Lillian folded her arms and pouted. So? Hurry up! Seth grunted, then fiercely stabbed the charger into the poor banana several more times. Jeez, it was so dumb and too funny to stop him. Spirit, it won't work. Ugh, you ruined my charger and wasted our food. I wish I could just throw you out into the storm. Seth shoved the mashed banana into his mouth. Who told you it's wasted? This is my dinner. Then he sulked off into the corner and covered himself with a blanket. Hilarious! Hey, don't worry. I have a power bank in my room. I'll go get it. Oh, sweet! You're indeed my knight in shining armor. Always come and save me in time. She winked, then hugged his arms. He quickly looked at me, then shook her off of him. What was that for? Was he serious when he said he liked me? He rejected Lillian more than twice. And to be honest, I did have this tingling feeling whenever there were only two of us in the room. I don't know anymore. Later that night, we decided to all gather in front of the fireplace to sleep, as it's the only warm place in the house. So me and the other girls went to the bedrooms to get the mattresses and blankets. Well, anything useful, really. OMG, my brother's such a loser. Lillian laughed as she picked up her pillow. Charlie smirked. Tell me about it. He actually stabbed a banana to death. The poor banana. I chuckled. Joking around with them actually felt kinda good. We were stuck in this house together till God knows when, so maybe I should stop being bitter towards them. Besides, I was totally over that useless loser Seth now anyway. Even Charlie wasn't on his side. We set up a cozy base in the living room and spent the next few days riding out the storm. On a few occasions, Lillian tried snuggling up to Trevor with some excuse about raising body heat, but he just shuffled away from her. So in the end, she made us all do cardio workouts, which did the trick, and it was really funny to watch each other struggle to do star jumps with 500 layers of clothes on. Charlie also taught us to play some card games to pass the time, such as solitaire and go fish, which I'm now a pro at. Seth and Trevor even picked up a new hobby of wood carving. But so far, I still couldn't tell what their artworks were supposed to be yet. And finally, after 4 days of isolation, the storm seemed to weaken. We started to get stable phone signal back, and we called our parents right away to update them on the situation. They said they would come pick us up as soon as possible. We were all so happy, and also proud of ourselves. We'd survived this crazy storm. So, you're probably thinking this is the happy ending? Not so fast. When we were all FaceTiming Lillian and Seth's parents, their mom suddenly said to Charlie, "Thank you so much for helping us keep an eye on the kids. We'll definitely add a nice bonus onto your salary this month." We were all stunned. I don't even know if it's for the same reason, but why was Seth's mom paying his girlfriend? Lillian clumsily said goodbye to her mom and ended the call immediately, then tried to clear up the atmosphere with her fake laugh. Y'all know how my mom loves to give her dear nieces and nephews some extra pocket money whenever she sees them. Okay, what are we having for lunch today, guys? Just stop it. I know your secret already. Charlie and Seth are a couple, aren't they? But why is your mom paying her? That's sick. Lillian, Seth, and Charlie all shouted out in unison, "What?" Lillian gave me a questioning look. Autumn, what are you talking about? Yeah, I'm sorry for lying to you, but no, Charlie is not Seth's girlfriend. She's our tutor. Liar? If so, then why did you have to hide it? My parents didn't trust us staying in this place by ourselves, so they asked Charlie to supervise. And come on, we're 16. We don't need a babysitter. That's embarrassing. Yeah, I thought it's just a harmless lie, so I agreed to go along with them. I mean, we still had fun together, right? But who told you we were a couple? I was about to reply, but then Trevor dragged me to another room while saying to the others, "She needs to calm down first. Let me take care of this." Now we were alone. I gave him an "I'm waiting" look. Okay, hear me out first, okay? I nodded, Then he sighed and continued. Lillian does like you, and she did actually want to help you get with Seth, but he wasn't interested. So she promised him a month's worth of pocket money to stay here. I didn't really buy it, but let's see what else he's got. Okay then, but that doesn't change the fact that Seth and Charlie had something going on. Duh. That kiss? Actually, that wasn't real. I just dared Seth to do it. Charlie really is just their tutor. What was he talking about? I felt like the room started spinning. Look, I really do like you, Autumn, and I know I should never have lied about stuff, but it was only so you'd give me a chance. Only, Lillian now thinks I like her, and I never meant to give her the wrong impression. How dare he trick me like that? So I screamed at him. I will never, ever like you! Your actions have just made me hate you even more! Thanks to him, I misjudged Lillian, Charlie, and Seth. Although, to be honest, Seth might not have been a liar, but he was still so not my type. Trevor gave me this disheartened look as he stared down at the ground. Then he muttered out a, "Sorry." I didn't want to hear any more of his pathetic apologies, so I huffed my way out of there and sat on the freezing porch until my parents finally arrived. After that, things went back to normal. School resumed. Lillian and I are the best of friends, and she now calls me her snowstorm bestie. Aww. As for Trevor, I now avoid him as much as possible. I know he stares over at me at school. I can feel his gaze on me. But as soon as I look in his direction, he quickly turns away. I guess I do like him, okay? I don't agree with what he did, but I've got to admit, it sure takes a witty, imaginative guy to come up with a plan like that on the spot. Okay, fine. I'll give him another chance and see where things go. And if there's ever another snowstorm, well, then I suppose he's a handy guy to have around. It was a regular morning, and I was sorting my books out in my locker when excited screams and cheers distracted me. Huh? It was way too early for this level of noise. A group of girls was lingering around the bulletin board. I walked over to take a look. Turns out, it was just the latest poster of Hillary, the prettiest girl in school, for her campaign of becoming prom queen. Well, yeah, typical reaction, since Hillary alone is too perfect already. All day, I found myself thinking about the Queen Hillary poster. Oh, I wish I could be as beautiful as she is. I mean, I'm not that ugly, but damn sure I'm not beautiful like her. OMG, look at me. My cheekbones aren't defined enough. My lips aren't pumped enough. My hair is too frizzy. And I literally have to jump on the spot to get myself into my favorite pair of jeans. Let's face it, I was plain and ordinary, while Hillary, she was oh so beautiful. Mom called me down for dinner, so I sat there glumly twirling my fork around my plate. Mom must have noticed something was up, as frowning she asked me, "Sonia, what's wrong? You've barely touched your dinner." "I'm not hungry," I sighed out. "Anyways, I'm big enough already, and ugly enough." "Sweetie, don't be silly. You look lovely." Yeah, right. Mom was only saying that because she felt like she had to. I thanked her for dinner, then went back to my room and scrolled through Hillary's profile. There wasn't one bad picture of her. Not one! She was so flawless, while I was, well, full of flaws. The next day, I was hanging out on the school field with my best friend Sydney and my boyfriend Lucas when Hillary passed by in a stunning dress. Jeez, look how gorgeous she was. Earth to Sonia. Sydney threw a potato chip at me. I turned and gave her a "what was that for" look. She rolled her eyes and continued, "Stop staring at little Miss Popular and pay attention to us. You know, your actual friends." Hello? Sorry, I sighed. It's just that she looks so pretty in that dress. It's not fair. She doesn't even have to try. Well, on me, it'd look like I was wearing a garbage bag. Stop comparing yourself to her. It's dumb.
Yeah, Hillary's Hillary. You are you. And you have your own beauty.
I shook my head. Yeah, right. I didn't have any beauty. Instead, I was ordinary, while Hillary was extraordinary. Chemistry was the only class I shared with Hillary, and for that entire 45 minutes, I just couldn't stop staring over at her, transfixed. As the teacher droned on about the periodic table, I daydreamed about how amazing it would be to have hair as glossy, skin as clear as hers. I caught her staring back at me a couple of times, and one time she mouthed, "What?" then rolled her eyes and annoyedly turned away. But still, I couldn't take my eyes off of her. After the lesson, I followed her to her next class, even though it was in a different direction to where I needed to be. I watched on with envy as her boyfriend, Ethan, the captain of the basketball team, looked at her adoringly, and how her pretty friends flocked around her. It must be so awesome to be that perfect. My Hillary obsession continued at home. Each evening, I scrolled through her profile and saved any new pics she'd posted. Then I'd just lay in bed staring at her perfect features and comparing them to my not-so-perfect ones. I even printed out my fave pics of her and framed them on my desk. Then one day, my worst nightmare came true. I was on my way to meet Lucas when I saw him standing in the hallway and talking to Hillary. That's odd. A popular girl like Hillary would never enjoy talking to a normie like him. Oh man, look how Lucas keeps laughing, then giggling. What if Hillary likes him? That kind of girl definitely gets whatever she wants easily. I couldn't watch any more of this, so I sent Sydney an emergency message and rushed off to the bathroom. She found me crying in the cubicle and asked me what was wrong. I told her what had happened and she frowned. Are you insane? Lucas was probably just being polite to her. Geez, he's with you for a reason, so get over this Hillary fixation. It's weird. Why did Sydney have to be so rude? I wanted her support, not her backlash. So I didn't meet up with her after school as planned. Instead, I went straight home and looked through my Hillary photos. I cut out sections of her lips, nose, hair, and stuck them on top of a photo of me. Looking down at it, well, wow, I looked so much better. It was then that I decided I would have a perfect face like her. So clutching the improved photo, I hurried down to my mom and waved it in her face. Look how perfect I'd be if I changed a few things. Please will you lend me the money to pay for surgery? Please? Mom looked horrified.
Sonia, you're only 17, and you're already beautiful. You don't need to put yourself through all this pain and risks to look like someone else.
I tried explaining to her that I didn't want to continue my life looking as plain and boring as I did, but she didn't listen at first. It took me a lot of time to talk her through, and let's face it, she also has had a nose job before. So what's the big deal about me getting mine fixed too, along with a few more touch-ups? That summer, I lied to Sydney and Lucas that I was spending the whole holiday with my dad and stepmom. I showed the surgeon a photo of Hillary as an example of the results I wanted. So he narrowed my nose, inserted cheek implants to give me a more defined look, and injected my lips with filler. I woke up after surgery in agony. Oh dear God, it hurts! I couldn't talk, and even crying was painful. Worse still, with all the bandages, I resembled an Egyptian mummy. Then, when the bandages were removed, my face was all swollen and puffy, and I had to do these massages to improve my facial muscles again. Pain is beauty, and beauty is pain, isn't it? Mom wasn't exactly impressed with what I did, as I didn't really tell her I would change my entire face. Still, she spent the summer looking after me, even though I did have to put up with her whining and sometimes even tears. Once healed, All that was left to do was have my hair colored and cut like Hillary's, and change my style to match hers. With my new look complete, I looked at the mirror and smiled. Finally, I was beautiful. I returned to school excited for everyone to see my new look, but as I walked through the hallway, everyone stared and gossiped about me. People I didn't know surrounded me and bombarded me with questions such as, "Which parts did you fix? How much? And did it hurt?" Nobody actually complimented me or anything. Then, as I was sorting out my locker, I heard a cough. I looked up to see Sydney standing there with her arms folded. "So, was it worth it?" I wasn't in the mood for this, so I replied, "You can't say anything nice, can you? This is who I am now. I'm being my true self, and I'm happy." "No, this is you trying to be someone you're not." I slammed my locker shut and stormed off. What kind of person doesn't support her own best friend? My day went from bad to worse when I met Lucas at lunch. He glared at me, then angrily said,
"Sonia, why? There was nothing wrong with you before, but now you're just a clone of someone else."
He went to leave, but I held his arm. "Please, I did this because I want to be more beautiful. For you. I did this for you." Lucas shook his head, then gave a thoughtful sigh. He didn't try to leave after that, but he kept giving me this pitying look. Then, when I was walking to class, a guy ran up behind me and put his arm around my waist.
"Hi there, my baby."
Startled, I immediately pushed him away. Oh, it was Ethan, Hillary's boyfriend.
"What's wrong? But, wait, why does your face look so weird?"
I pushed him off me and ran away. OMG! That was horrifying! My heart was still pumping. From then on, people continued to mistake me for Hillary. Then whenever Sydney sat with me, they gossiped about how tragic it was that she was trying to be a cool kid. It made her feel uncomfortable, so she stopped hanging out with me at school. I had to sit by myself and felt so lonely. Then there was Lucas. Whenever I tried so much as hug him, he flinched. Then he admitted that he found my new look strange and intimidating. Life carried on, and prom grew closer. I noticed one of the Queen Hillary posters had been ripped off, and in its place was another poster of a girl named Kim. Geez, this prom queen campaign seems very stressful. Then, as I stepped outside, I heard someone shout, "Now!" Then the next thing I knew, stuff was thrown at me. In just a blink, I was covered in tomatoes and eggs. Yuck! Then a group of girls smirking stepped out and one said,
"You should just give up trying to be prom queen before it's too late."
I blurted out while taking pieces of eggshell off of my hair. "What? Why attack me?"
"Oh, wait! Girls, it's the plastic Hillary wannabe. Well, you still deserve this. Have fun being a failed version of Hillary."
They laughed as they left, leaving me standing there feeling worse than ever. I went to the bathroom to clean myself up and walked in on Hillary applying her makeup in the mirror. Whoa, her face actually wasn't so perfect with all the makeup on.
"Oh, wow, it's you."
She glanced at me.
"You know, everyone is talking about you even more than me,"
she said, while covering her eyelid with tons of eyeshadows.
"I mean, I'm kind of flattered, but trust me, you look ridiculous. You're like the Walmart version of me. I feel sorry for Lucas for having a super insecure girlfriend like you."
Then she flicked her hair and left. I looked at myself in the mirror, tears streaming down my face. So Hillary was just a mean girl who faked her butt off to build a friendly image and covered her mediocre face with a lot of makeup. She wasn't perfect, just like me. From then on, I desperately longed to look like myself again. I begged Mom to lend me the money to fix my face, but she refused.
"No more. Once is enough. Isn't this all you wanted?"
Great. Now I was going to be stuck looking like this forever. Until one night, my cheeks started aching. Soon,
I couldn't so much as twitch my face without being in serious pain. Mom found me clutching my face in agony and drove me to the hospital. The doctor told me my implants had leaked and I needed emergency surgery to remove them. This happened a month ago. Now, when I look in the mirror, luckily, I don't see Hillary anymore. Instead, I see me, but in a quite different look. I've well and truly learned my lesson, and Sydney and Lucas have been there to help me through everything. Now I know that I should have learned how to love myself instead of comparing myself to someone else. I am who I am. And you know what? I now realize that I'm okay with that. I was sitting in the reception with an ice pack pressed to my head, waiting for my mom to come pick me up. Ugh, that stupid rogue ball during PE! Oh, there she was, glamorous as always. She rushed over and hugged me, checking if I was okay. Then she guided me out of there and along the hallway. A group of teenage boys stopped dead and stared open-mouthed as we walked by. One even wolf whistled. Even my math teacher, who was walking out of his classroom, started readjusting his tie and waved over at us. No, those reactions weren't for me. They were for my mom. She's just too beautiful to ever be fazed by how men act around her. On the way back home, I got a message from my bestie, Minnie. I bet men would all compete to win a date with your mom. She was like a goddess earlier. I giggled to myself. The thought of a bunch of adult men competing to win my mom's affection amused me. I couldn't understand why my mom was still single. She's gorgeous, successful, and a really kind person. And I guessed she'd enjoy having a man about the place, right? Okay, so Minnie wasn't being serious, but the more I pondered on it, the better the idea became. So I messaged her back. Tell me more about that contest idea of yours. Then one time, when my mom was away on a business trip, I invited Minnie around. We spent all evening posting about the auditions online and handing flyers out around town. Soon, the applications came flooding in. Oh boy, some were handsome, but some, yeah, they were so not. Delete, definitely. We got everything ready to spend hours sifting through all the applicants. Gotta be strict. 'Cause the chosen one had to be perfect like Prince Paris to match with a woman like my mom, whose name is actually Helen. Finally, we whittled them down to a top 10 list, and we invited them along to round 1. Fitness is important, right? Well, at least that's what Minnie says. So we set up an assault course at the local park. All the guys showed up, including Mr. Swanson, my gym teacher. Uh-oh, awkward. But hey, I suppose he was good-looking and a physically strong man. Firstly, they had to run a complete lap of the field, as stamina was important. Then they had to lift 120 pounds of weights, equal to my mom's weight. She sure needed a man who could lift her over their shoulder like they do in the movies. OMG. Watching them warming up was hilarious. One man showed up in this lycra one-piece and started doing jumping jacks, and another guy was doing some weird karate moves. All of them completed the running section. Well, just about. But some of them struggled to lift the weights, including Mr. Swanson, who had turned bright red and was groaning. Minnie and I covered our mouths to hold back our laughs. Farewell, Mr. Swanson. That was for being mean to us in gym class. Finishing round 1, we eliminated 3 men. Too bad, as they were handsome. On to round 2. It's not all about brawn. Brains are important too. That was why Minnie and I spent 2 days noting down all the questions for our Who Wants to Be My Mom's Boyfriend quiz round. My mom deserves a man who knows everything. We set out a row of kid-sized chairs in the backyard. Then we walked along the line and fired questions at them. Suddenly, one man stood up and furiously said to the others, "Why are we letting some kids test us like this?" Then stormed off. Minnie whispered, "Not surprising, really." I saw him scratching his head at the other questions. We then eliminated those with the lowest score, leaving just 5 potentials to go through to round 3. That night, I was about to grab something to eat, and I saw my mom standing in the kitchen. She was back earlier than I thought. She was looking down at the pile of profiles on the table with in and out stamps on them. Confused, she asked me,
Zara, what is the meaning of this?
Mom, we think you've been lonely for a long time, so Minnie and I are doing a contest to find you a man. I gave my best puppy-eyed look. Actually, tomorrow is round 3. It'd be perfect if you could join us for the interview. Please? Mom glared at me and shook her head. But I kept insisting until she sighed and said, Fine, I'll come. I howled with joy and hugged her. Bring on round 3, the interview stage. Minnie and I asked the questions while Mom, Queen Helen, watched from her throne. The first one, Tyler, waved over at Mom and said,
Helen, do you recognize me?
My mom just smiled politely. Turned out, Tyler had a big crush on my mom since they were both in high school. Then when Minnie asked him to show us his talent, he ignored her and said to Mom,
Oh, Helen, I've never stopped loving you. You remember back then when we...
I shouted out, interrupting him. Not impressive enough. Next! The second one stepped in. Simon. Ooh, he was wearing a suit and seemed like a gentleman.
Maybe you don't recognize me,
Simon spoke up. My mom's smile disappeared.
I'm Simon, the head of the engineering department in our company.
Simon must have had a crush on my mom for a long time, but she sure didn't even know he existed. His talent performance was to help fix 2 faulty computers in my house. Useful, but honestly, it wasn't rocking enough. Plus, him being my mom's colleague was awkward. Duh! As soon as the third one, James walked in, Mom sat up with a surprise.
Helen, I miss you so much,
he sincerely said. Mom immediately motioned me to eliminate him, then got up and went inside. It was revealed that James was her ex-boyfriend from their college days. Okay, creep. Oh well, 2 guys left. The next one was so dreamy. He looked like he belonged in a boy band. Minnie and I clasped hands excitedly.
Hi, I'm Daniel. Nice to meet you, ladies.
Daniel's smile totally melted Minnie and I.
I don't know if you ladies know, but I live on this street.
Seriously? How did I not know a handsome neighbor like this? He then took out his guitar and played a song. OMG, this guy deserves straight A's. But he was only 21 years old. That was way younger than my mom. Andy was the last one of all. Very handsome and sweet. For his talent, he'd make us cupcakes.
These lovely little ones are specially made for you, lovely ladies.
He smiled. Oh, how charming. In the end, Minnie and I sat together and discussed our options. Well, the result was quite obvious. I excitedly announced, We've made our decision. My new daddy, the chosen Prince Paris to my mom Helen, the champion is... Andy! He looked chuffed and grinned over at my mom. Still, my mom maintained that polite smile and remained silent. Yay! This was great! I finally had a father. Moreover, this one makes awesome food. I couldn't wait for their first date. Eek! Now let me tell you, the date went amazingly. Andy took my mom and I to this fancy restaurant in town. He pulled the chairs out for us, ordered food he thought we'd like, then he started serving us the coolest stories ever. He really is a gentleman. If I had a boyfriend, I would want one like him. After we finished, I crossed the street to buy ice cream and caught them hugging. Perfect! Looked like things went well. Oh, Andy! I could already imagine the life where he was family. That night, Mom sat down next to me while I was texting and watching TV.
Zara, I'm glad to see you had fun these past few days.
I hummed, still texting.
But did it ever cross your mind that what you did was for you and not for me?
Excuse me? I worked hard to make her happy, and she could say that to me? I took my eyes off the phone and stared at her.
Sweetie, you only picked the man you liked the best. It's your choice, not mine. I appreciate what you did, but relationships are not that simple.
I tearfully raised my phone and shook it, saying that I already invited Andy over at the weekend to teach me how to cook. Mom smiled.
No problem.
Andy and I already talked and decided to stay friends, so this weekend's plan remains the same. I lowered my head and apologized to her. Mom was right. I'd picked my favorite without considering her feelings. But yeah, it wasn't all bad, as after that, Andy kept coming over most weekends, took me to go buy groceries with him, and then cooked for us. He taught me how to cook and bake, and we even chatted about the goofy boys at my school.
Seriously, if that Richard wants a chance with a pretty girl like ours, Zara, then he should be stronger,
Andy said, while his hands were still cooking gracefully. Yeah, Richard. Burn! Speaking of being burnt, ouch! Yes, it was me who had just burnt myself in the oven thinking about all this. Andy rushed over, guided my hand over to the faucet, and ran it under cold water. Oh, geez. He was so caring and thoughtful. Unlike those childish guys my age. Soon it was my sweet 16th, and of course, Andy was the chef for dinner. Mum and Minnie just had to light up the birthday candles. Then, as I watched Andy through the candlelight, I knew I couldn't lie to myself anymore. I was in love with him. I spent days planning for the best confession to him. Only, before I could tell him how I felt, Mum told me,
Andy just called me and said he'd been offered the head chef job in New York. He's leaving next week.
What? No! Why? It was Andy, the first love of my life. That was so unfair. We didn't get any chance to see him until the day he boarded. Mum and I went to the airport to see him off. I couldn't bear watching him go, so I glued my eyes on the floor while he was still excitedly chatting with my mom.
Zara, use what I taught you to take good care of your mother, okay?
Andy winked and patted my head. I couldn't help myself any longer. I burst into tears, hugged him, and sobbed out, Andy, I love you. Please don't go. Don't leave me. I can't live without you. For a moment, the whole airport, including my mom, was stunned. All eyes were on me. Andy immediately pushed me away, clearing his throat, and said,
Zara, you're a lovely, pretty, sweet girl. You will find a suitable boyfriend.
Then he turned to Mum.
Best wishes to you both. Bye, Helen. Bye, Zara.
And I watched him walk away with tears streaming down on my face. Well, it's been 6 months since then, and I eventually realized that my feelings for Andy were just a teenage confusion. I did love him, yes, but it was more like admiring and respecting him as a father figure. Anyway, I do have a new dad now, but it was my beloved Mum's choice. His name is Harris, and he might not be as good a cook as Andy, but he's a nice guy, and he makes her happy. And of course, we still keep in touch with Andy. Both his career and his love life are doing really well in the Big Apple. I've learned my lesson. Life's full of choices, some good and some not so good. But sometimes, however much we want to, we can't make choices for other people. Instead, we just have to take a deep breath and let them make their own. High school has started, and it's going pretty well. I'm currently seeing this very cute guy in math class. Guys my age are not that bad, to be honest. Minnie's not so bad on herself either, as she's now dating that musician Daniel and enjoys touring around with him whenever he plays at concerts. What a happily fulfilled ending for everyone, isn't it? I blinked open my eyes. Whoa, my head felt dizzy. And, why was I covered in scratches? My mind was totally blank. I couldn't remember what happened. The last picture flashing through my mind was a heated argument between me and some guy. Then I stormed off and now, here I am, in this gloomy place. I think it's a basement or something. It's cold, and it stinks of damp. Dang it! I cannot remember his face. I knew I needed to get out of here, and fast. I ran to the door and tried opening it, but to no avail. It's locked. I slammed my hands against the door and shouted,
Anyone? Help! I could hear footsteps approaching, so ignoring my throbbing palms and burning throat, I banged on the door and screamed out, "Open the door!" Oh my God! It's him! The guy I'd been arguing with before! He was holding a sandwich and smiling gently at me.
"Oh, Alice, my puppy. Are you awake? I thought you might be hungry."
Who are you? You brought me here, didn't you? What do you want? He looked confused, then sadly blurted out,
"Oh no, honey. You must have memory loss from the accident. It's your Josh here. I'm your boyfriend."
I squinted at him. He did look familiar, but what boyfriend? What accident? He showed me the photos on his phone. OMG! That was me with him, and we looked so happy together. But why can't I remember anything? I hit my head with my hands in frustration, while Josh just stood there against the wall staring at me and giggling. So maybe this Josh guy was my boyfriend, but that didn't explain why he'd locked me up in this dungeon. This wasn't a normal boyfriend thing to do. I rushed to the door, but he grabbed me in his arms. "Let me out! You definitely have some wicked intention going on bringing me here." I scowled.
"Oh my gosh, Alice. You've been watching too many movies. Do you really not remember anything?"
I gave him a clearly not look, then folded my arms.
"I guess the accident was pretty intense. We argued, then you insisted on driving while you were drunk, and then caused a fatal accident. Never mind. I think we shouldn't go in too deep about that right now. It must be traumatizing for you. But that's why I decided to bring you here, so the cops wouldn't arrest you."
What? Why couldn't I remember such a horrible thing? But looking at all the wounds on my face and body, maybe everything was exactly like what Josh said. No! I have to confess. I stuttered in tears.
"Are you crazy? Do you want to go to jail?"
But...
Alice, no buts. I'm gonna protect you and keep you safe."
This was a lot to process, so in a moment of panic, I found myself agreeing to his crazy plan. Josh said this was an emergency bunker back from his grandfather's time. Sure thing. I mean, it sure smelled musty. There's not even a window, just a flickering wall light. It felt like I was in a horror movie. Josh also told me that he'd taken my phone off me, so the cops wouldn't be able to trace it and arrest us both. And that's it. Every morning, noon, and night, Josh would bring me food and talk to me about his day.
"Puppy, I'm home."
Puppy? Oh, it sounded cute at first, but I soon became allergic to that word.
"Hey, puppy, eat this. Puppy this, puppy that. Puppy, puppy, puppy."
I was so fed up with the word puppy that at times I actually thought I was nothing more than a pet to him. Then each night, he insisted on rubbing my back so I'd fall asleep more easily. Sounds nice, right? But no, it wasn't. He rubbed it really hard, and when I asked him to stop, he just laughed. Obviously, he wasn't doing it to make me feel better, but regarded it as a pastime. Ugh! And that's not all. A few times, I'd wake up to see him sitting there, staring at me with this gummy grin on his face. Then, when I checked my hair, I saw that he'd tied loads of these dumb little bows in it. "Are you crazy? I'm not a kid!" I grumbled while pulling and throwing all those dumb things out of my head.
"But puppy, they look so cute. Tom always liked them."
I glared at him. Didn't bother saying anything anymore. Oh, and FYI, yes, Tom's his old dog's name. Okay, so I didn't need a genius to figure out that something was seriously up with this guy's head. But then, things got weirder. One time, he brought down food for us to eat together. It was fried chicken, and as soon as I smelt it, my eyes sparkled.
I was about to take a piece when suddenly he pulled the plate away and took a big bite. I didn't even have time to react. Then he handed me the chicken thigh bone he hadn't finished yet.
"Help me with the rest, puppy. This part is too hard to gnaw."
I rolled my eyes at him and flushed up with anger. Seeing my reaction, he said,
"What's wrong, puppy? Tom always loved the leftovers."
"Are you crazy?" I screamed.
"Yo, I'm kidding. Don't you know how to take a joke?"
He grinned. Kidding? What kind of kidding is that? I've had enough of this. This place was driving me insane. I could hardly sleep at all because I couldn't even distinguish between day and night. Then, when I did close my eyes, I found myself tormented by the serious crime I'd committed. Josh was trying to save me. Yes, but I didn't ask him to do that. I couldn't live like this. I needed to face the truth. I had to turn myself in. The next morning, when Josh brought me breakfast, I told him what I wanted to do. Expectedly, he got mad and glared at me.
"Alice, why do you want to go to jail so badly?"
"I can't stay here forever. I have to face up to what I've done."
"But it's so peaceful here with me."
Peaceful? Was he being serious? It sure didn't feel peaceful. Instead, I felt like I was playing the role of his pet. I lurched forward, but Josh immediately grabbed me so I couldn't move. I tried squirming my way free, but he was a strong guy. Suddenly, he covered my nose with a handkerchief and my eyes closed. Then everything turned black. I slowly opened my eyes. I was in the same familiar room, but bars. I saw bars! Ugh! I was in a cage! Then I kicked something. It was a water bowl!
"Puppy, you're so naughty. I can't lose you, so I've put you in here."
He grinned at me as he handed me a sandwich. I chucked it away, then screamed at him to let me out. Seeing this, he immediately left and returned with a bunch of plush toys and dropped them in the cage.
"Hope they'll make you happier."
Then he tried to stuff the sandwich into my mouth. Furiously, I took a bite and spat it in his face, then sneered while throwing the toys at him. Jeez, some of them even squeaked.
"Wow. Okay."
His demeanor changed, and his eyes turned scary.
"If that's what you want, don't blame me later."
Things were different after that. Each day, he only gave me a bowl of those gross-smelling biscuits, then he'd just sit there gawping at me. At first, I refused to eat them. But in the end, I was so exhausted that I gave in, even though I'm pretty sure they were dog biscuits. Ugh! I realized that resisting him wasn't benefiting me at all. It was only making him act more horrible. That's when a genius plan popped into my head. So the next time when Josh appeared with the biscuits, I smiled sweetly at him and said, "Josh, baby, it's been so long since we've been on a date. How about you go and get us a bottle of wine, and we can spend some quality time together?" His eyes lit up, and of course, he agreed without hesitation. He hurried off to get the wine.
"Cheers to us!"
"Josh, you're the love of my life, and I'm so grateful to God for bringing you into my life. Please stay with me forever." I flashed a sweet smile and whispered in his ear. Every time he took a sip of wine, I fluttered my eyelashes at him as I refilled his glass. To say I'm a Hollywood actress with an Oscar-worthy performance would be an understatement. Soon, Josh was so drunk he went cross-eyed. He fell to the ground before I even finished pouring him the last glass of wine. Seizing the opportunity, I stepped over him to get out, when suddenly, a hand grabbed my ankle. Oh no, I'm screwed! My heart felt like it was about to jump out of my chest. I immediately turned around, ready to fight him when, well, it turned out he was just dreaming. Phew. Thank God. I gently pulled my foot free and immediately dashed out of there. I climbed up the stairs to a living room where I found my phone left on the table.
I quickly grabbed it and ran out of that horrible house. My legs trembled, and I felt like they might give away beneath me at any second. But somehow, I managed to find the inner strength to keep on running. I couldn't use my phone as it was out of battery, and I was too disoriented to figure out where my home was. So, when I stumbled upon a police station, I walked toward it. I took a deep breath. This was a tough decision. I knew I was going to jail, but I couldn't live in creepy Josh's basement forever and be his substitute pet. No thanks. I had to face up to what I'd done. Sir, I'm here to confess. The cop looked confused and told me there hadn't been a fatal accident recently. But then he said I looked familiar, so he looked up my name, and turns out my family had reported me missing. That liar Josh had tricked me. It was all a ruse so he could imprison me. How vile! I charged my phone, and up popped hundreds of messages and voicemails from my worried friends and relatives. This was all so overwhelming. I put my head down for a moment. Then all the memories gradually surfaced. I'd been in the mall parking lot, and I felt like someone was following me. So I hid in the corner, and that's when Josh appeared. So I asked him, "Why are you following me?" "Alice, I love you. Please come back to me." I rolled my eyes and started walking away from him. "Go away, weirdo! We're done!" Then he grabbed my shoulder. I shook myself free and ran away, when a car came out of nowhere and... Ugh! Yes, of course. Josh was my crazy, controlling stalker ex. So he must have taken advantage of my unconsciousness to take me back to his basement and come up with his bonkers plan. Then to make things even easier for him, I ended up with memory loss. Typical. It was a nightmare. But thankfully, it's over now. The cops took my statement, and soon after that, my family came to pick me up. They all burst out crying, and we hugged each other tightly. It's taking a while to get back to normal life after all the trauma, but I'm getting there. I do want to vomit whenever I hear anyone say the word puppy. Ugh. However, this didn't stop me from getting my own rescue dog, Lily the Corgi, and I never put bows in her fur. As for Josh, well, he was convicted for false imprisonment and has to stay in jail for 4 years. Who's in the cage now? Serves you right. Why do we have to study logarithms? Will they help us with stockbroking? Surely not. Why suddenly create the X and then force us to find it? And why do I have to prove that it's an isosceles triangle? I see clearly that it is. Duh! Then I received the note back saying, "What are you two talking about?" I just figured that another kid had intercepted it. So with my eyes still glued to my level 3692 of Candy Crush, I scrawled back, "Keep your nose out of my business," and then handed the paper over without looking. Ahem. But your business is taking place in my class. I slowly looked up and saw that it was my teacher. Oh, dang. Busted again. Looking over, I saw Brett with his big guilty face. Ugh, he should have been more careful. Okay, you. And you. Out. You're probably wondering how I'm such a pro at this pose. Well, it's because I've done it 1,000 times. And that serious woman over there is Mrs. Megan, my math teacher. I swear, she totally has it in for me. Okay, let me tell you the story. Once upon a time, there was a girl who, due to an unexpected accident with a trash can and an ill-placed skateboard, ended up arriving a teensy bit late for her exam. But the teacher refused to let her in, and also failed her. Grrr. Yeah, that girl was me, Lexi. Thus, from that moment forth, she became my arch enemy. So, during her boring lecture, I threw a paper plane at the board and said, "Miss, you've spelled arithmetic wrong. I suppose spelling is a bit hard for a numbers person like you. It's okay." Clearly my comment got to her, as during that same class, she picked on me to graph a function. Huh, easy peasy. So I created a masterpiece that made her eyes roll, and the whole class found it hilarious. And as expected, she gave me a lengthy lecture on my childish behavior, and even threatened to call my parents. Poof! Yeah, good luck with that, as unless it involved business, then my parents were practically impossible to reach. Besides, I was just having a laugh. Mrs. Megan needed to lighten up. So I secretly stuck a piece of paper saying "free hugs" on her back. I lurked behind a tree and watched as all these people surrounded her. She looked so bewildered as she tried to navigate past them while having no idea what was going on. The good old days. Suddenly, Brett patted my shoulder and told me 30 minutes had passed and we needed to go back to class. My butt hadn't even touched my chair when I heard a patronizing voice say, "You shouldn't act like that." Ugh, that's Faye, the teacher's pet and a real pick-me girl. Every time the teacher asks a question, she wriggles her arm in the air and squeaks out, "Me, me, me!" Mrs. Megan only likes her because she always laughs at her boring jokes. Oh well, I may have no proof, but in my experience, Faye's definitely not as innocent as she looks. Don't say I'm jealous, 'cause I'm 100% not. You probably think I hate school, but it's still way better than my so-called home. Ugh. At least school could be amusing, while my home life consisted of Mom and Dad locked away in their office 24/7. I can't remember the last time either of them cooked dinner. So takeaway it is. So I'm texting Ben, my super sexy BF. He's been studying in France, and he's back today. I've missed him so much, but unfortunately, I couldn't pick him up from the airport because of, school. And tonight, he has a family party, but we're meeting up tomorrow. Yay! Let me see your face, sweetie. I miss you. You know what? Today, that teacher gave me detention again. Really? She messed with the wrong one, didn't she? Definitely. I will retaliate tomorrow. She'd better watch out. Okay, but don't end up in after-school detention, as I want to see you. My mom's also a teacher, but she's not that much. Oh, by the way, she's here. You want to say hello? Yeah, sure. Ben, it gets on my nerves whenever I think of that meek. Before I had a chance to finish my words, a person popped up on the screen. Mrs. Megan! Lexi? OMG! We both gave each other stunned, open-mouthed stares. It looked like the screen had frozen. Literally. Then just when I didn't think it could get any worse, suddenly a familiar voice broke the silence. Oh, Ben has a girlfriend? Let me see her. Huh? That's Faye! Oh, my days. This is too much to process. My two enemies were in the same frame. Shocked, I ended the call. Right after, I received a text from Ben saying, "Don't worry, my mother may look super serious, but she's kind. And the girl is Faye, my neighbor. We've known each other since childhood, and she's cool." This was so crazy. Now I'd have to face them both every day knowing that they're associated with my BF. Oh, the future is as dark as night. And yeah, this is the beginning of the series thusly entitled Living with My Future Mother-in-Law and My BF's Annoying Female Best Friend. And since then, things at school turned weird. For our class Halloween event, which had a Toy Story theme, Mrs. Megan was in charge of handing out the parts. Faye was Bo Peep, and she had this really cute outfit. While me, I was stuck as Mrs. Potato Head. My outfit was so lame, and one of my googly eyes kept on falling off. Ugh! It was so embarrassing, but I couldn't say anything. I couldn't mess with her anymore, as I still wanted to be with her son. Ugh. Worse still, math class became an endurance test. I was so sick of being compared to that goody two-shoes Faye.
Lexi, if you spent more time studying and less time painting your nails, you'd be a top student like Faye.
Poof! Faye caught on to what was going on and also started playing tricks on me. One time in class, when I was dozing and Mrs. Megan was correcting the homework, I overheard, "This symbol shows that A is not equal to B." Faye then turned around and whispered,
"Just like you, you're not equal to me. And you don't deserve my Ben either."
What? Ben is mine, not hers. I bared my teeth and was about to say something when that brat started pretending to cry, saying that I was picking on her. Out! Mrs. Megan came to us with burning eyes. We were walking out when in a sympathetic tone she added, "Faye, you stay." I returned to my meditating pose, but I couldn't shake off my anger. How unfair! Later, when it was lunchtime, Faye walked over to me with a cup of Coke, saying it was a peace offering, and that she was sorry for earlier. This was confusing, but whatever. I took it and was about to take a sip when Brett rushed over waving his arms about. "Lexi, stop!" I saw Faye put soy sauce in it. I was just a second away from yelling at her when Mrs. Megan appeared. I smiled smugly, thinking Faye would finally get into trouble. But to my surprise, Mrs. Megan took a sip of the drink and tried to keep a neutral face as she replied, "There's nothing wrong with it." Really? They went that far to cover up for each other? Whatever. I had a date with Ben tonight to prepare for anyway. That night as planned, I arrived at Ben's house with a somewhat wilting pot plant for Mrs. Megan. I was kinda excited to finally have a cooked meal. Only, when I walked into the kitchen, I couldn't smell anything cooking. Mrs. Megan appeared and rubbing her hand said, "Lexi, you don't mind cooking, do you? It's just been a long week of drawing diagrams. My hand kinda aches." Seeing the situation, Ben immediately came to help, but she reminded him that he'd agreed to fix a pipe or something. To be honest, I'd never touched a frying pan before. But I mean, how hard could it be? I'd make pancakes, though it's not really suitable for dinner, but I'd seen them on a 5-minute crafts and they were clearly a breeze to make. Only, it didn't go to plan. In situations like this, it's important not to panic. But, yeah, I panicked. I needed a plan B. Quick! In a rush, I threw away all the evidence of the failed pancakes and ordered food online. After all, thanks to my workaholic parents, this was my forte. I instructed the delivery person to come to the back door, so Ben and Mrs. Megan would be none the wiser. Expectedly, at the very first bite, Ben and my mother-in-law praised me profusely for my food, and Ben even joked that I should join the next season of Master Chef. Yo, I will rate this restaurant 5 stars for sure. Mrs. Megan suddenly dropped her spoon, so I quickly bent down to pick it up, only she leaned down and whispered sarcastically, "I order from Sydney's too. Their sauces are divine." Oh, busted! Then, halfway through the night, this man showed up and apologized for being late. Turns out he was Jim, Faye's father, but Faye wasn't coming over as she was out with friends. Happy days! I watched Mrs. Megan and him touch a tissue box at the same time by mistake, and then blushed? Huh? Oh, I get it. She liked him. Now it made sense why she was always sucking up to Faye. "Have you thought about remarrying?" I asked Jim innocently. To the waiting eyes of me, as well as Mrs. Megan, he hesitantly answered, I don't think Faye would like that." Mrs. Megan glumly stared down at the floor. Okay, so I actually felt kinda sorry for her. Besides, matchmaking has always been my hobby, so I decided to help her. I knew that Faye was at a party on Saturday night, so I decided this was the perfect opportunity to play Cupid. I told Mrs. Megan that Jim had something to tell her, so meet him at the Golden Reef restaurant at 7 p.m. Then I told Jim the same. I stood behind a column and watched them share their starter, and then give each other gooey-eyed glances. Then Jim reached out and took Mrs. Meagan's hand. They were looking at each other passionately when Faye suddenly rushed in from nowhere and angrily slammed her bag on the table.
So this is it? My teacher and my dad? For real?
Faye, why are you here?
Jim stuttered.
No one can ever replace Mom!
Then she turned to a dumbfounded-looking Mrs. Meagan.
Turns out you were only being nice to me to get my dad. You're fake. Stay away from us.
Mrs. Meagan covered her face with her hands, then quickly left. Geez, Faye was brutal. And however annoying Mrs. Meagan was, she didn't deserve that.
You!
Faye shouted. Uh-oh, her gaze fixed on me.
It figures you'd be behind this. Keep your big nose out of our family business and start caring about yours instead.
Guess this is what lack of parental care does to a kid. I stared at her speechless. Those words should have driven me mad, but for some reason, I only felt sad. And so guilty. I really just meant well. So, first thing at school the next day, I swallowed my pride and went to Mrs. Meagan's classroom, where she looked lost in thought as she marked homework. I coughed to clear my throat, then said, Miss, I'm sorry. I honestly was trying to help, but now I realize I should have minded my own business. I'm also sorry for being a jerk in your class. She was silent at first, then replied, It's okay, as I've come to realize that you and I aren't so different. We both have complications in the way of finding love. Guess it's really not easy to get approval from your parents' family, huh? She smiled and gently stroked my hair before continuing. You're such a smart and kind girl, and I always knew you could do better in class, that I must have been too harsh on you. I'm sorry, too. I smiled back at her, and at that moment, I felt like all of our previous conflicts melted away. And I realized that I shouldn't neglect my studies. Instead, I should work hard to become the best version of myself. So, with a lot of hard work, I went from trailing at the bottom of the class to reaching the top spot, even overtaking Faye. Ha! Speaking of Faye, she was still ignoring both me and Mrs. Meagan, and never put her hand up in class anymore. But then a rainbow flame experience in the chem lab changed things. Everyone ran out of there when the curtain caught on fire, except for a terrified Faye. Luckily, Mrs. Meagan rushed inside to rescue her just in time, and covered her with a jacket as she led her to safety. After that, Faye realized that Mrs. Meagan is a good person who cares about both her and Jim. So, through blurry eyes, Faye sobbed out,
Thank you so much, and sorry, I was too childish. Please forgive me.
A few months later. So, yeah, you see, my wing woman plan worked. And now I have a second family, a really big one. But you know what's the best thing? That is, I no longer have to order food online anymore, 'cause I will stick to here, and my mother-in-law will cook for me. I want to meet Mr. Garcia. It's important, I told the receptionist. She looked at me confused and said, Sorry, but no one under that name works here. What? But he's the company director. The receptionist gave me this bewildered look, then firmly said, I'm sorry, but no one under that name works in this company. Maybe you've got the wrong building. Fine. If she wouldn't help me, then I'd find him myself. Miss, wait! You're not authorized to go there! Unfortunately, I didn't get very far before 2 guards raced over and pulled me away. As I tried struggling free, I yelled out, This is ridiculous! I'm your director's girlfriend! Suddenly, a smart-looking man appeared in front of me and calmly said, Madam, are you looking for Austin Garcia? Yes, I nodded. The man sighed, then continued.
Austin did work here, but I fired him months ago. I have no place for someone with such lazy, carefree attitude in my company.
I stared at this man open-mouthed.
Oh no. So he was the director, not Austin. So, my boyfriend had been lying to me from the start? When the guards led me out of the building, I saw people gawping at me, and I overheard one of them say, "Oh my God, another gullible girl got scammed?" This couldn't be happening to me. Austin was my super successful, rich and handsome boyfriend. There must have been some mistake. He couldn't possibly have scammed me. Could he? I was showing my housemate Sarah the amazing designer bag Austin bought me when he walked into the room and slouched onto the couch. Okay, so what was with his glum look? Babe, it's just that my company has this big project on. I invested $100,000 already, with a 5 times return expected by the end of the year. Wow, what a huge project. I felt so proud to have such a perfect boyfriend. But then he lowered his voice. Yeah, looks like I'm gonna have to bail on it. I widened my eyes and asked, "Why? What's up?" I need to contribute another $50,000 by the end of the week, but I'm still $10,000 short. I blurted out, "I can help." He shook his head. Babe, I can't expect you to do that. Besides, where would you find that amount of money from at such short notice? I'll borrow it from my friends or something. Don't you believe your girlfriend can do it? I winked at him. He kissed my forehead and then with a huge smile on his face, told me I was the best girlfriend ever. After I counted up my savings and student loan, I was still a few thousand short. So, I told a couple of my friends that my parents had been in an accident and I needed money urgently to pay for their hospital fees. I know lying was lame, but I'd pay them back soon, so what would it matter, right? But then a week after I'd given Austin the money, he showed up at my house looking completely bummed out. He told me he'd met an unexpected problem and now he needed another $15,000, else he'd lose everything. I wanted to help him, but I had no one left to borrow money from. I thought he'd be understanding, but instead he just said, "You can borrow money from a loan shark. Then in a month, we can pay it back." I gave him a confused look and asked him why he didn't get the loan himself. He stroked my hair and in a soothing voice said, "I would if I could, Hannah, but you're a student, so your interest rates will be much lower than mine." That made sense. Plus, we were going to be together forever anyway. So what did it matter who took the loan out? So that same day, I borrowed the rest of the money from a loan shark and handed it over to Austin. "Hannah!" a voice shouted, which startled me from my thoughts. "Hannah, give me back my money. I need it urgently." My friend Rachel glared at me. I felt so flustered as I blurted out, "Soon. A few days, I promise." She rolled her eyes at me. "Yeah, whatever. Poof! I thought you had a rich boyfriend, right? Why don't you ask him to help you out?" I forced a smile and repeatedly told her I'd pay her back soon. This was so embarrassing, and now my friend hated me. Ugh! It was all that jerk Austin's fault. The truth was that as soon as I handed him the money, well, he disappeared. His online accounts, number, everything. All gone. I even found out that the house he claimed to be his was actually just some Airbnb rental. Oh, and the designer bag he bought me? Fake! The next day, I was walking to my lecture when I heard 2 girls talking to each other. Hannah owes people loads of money, but won't pay it back. Isn't she always boasting about having a boyfriend? I lowered my head and hurried past them. This was so humiliating. I needed to figure out a way of finding that jerk Austin and making him give me my money back. Oh, who could that be? Maybe it was Austin with a perfectly reasonable explanation for everything. I ran to the door and opened it. Oh, it's just some strange girl. "Where is Austin? Tell him to come out here now!" she yelled. "And you are?" "His victim! He tricked me into giving him all of my savings."
She pushed past me and stormed inside. "Austin, stop hiding from me and come out!" I pulled the girl's arm and asked, "Hold up, he also tricked you?" She looked at me with wide eyes. Oh gosh, Austin's such a pro scammer. After that, we sat down and she explained everything. Turns out she's called Leah, and Austin scammed her out of $50,000. OMG, that was so much money. Austin is a real jerk. Suddenly, my housemate Sarah and her boyfriend Weston walked in.
"Hey, look! I won this Tales of Suspense Volume 39 in the horse race bet the other day. You know, it's super rare."
Weston was so excited showing Sarah his new precious comic book, while I forced a smile at them both, then quickly dragged Leah up to my room. There's no way I wanted Sarah knowing that I'd been scammed. Entering my room, Leah suddenly said, "Hey, do you want your money back?" I nodded. "Of course I do, but now I don't even know where he is." She gave me this sly smile as she told me how Austin adored the Marvel Universe, and that comic Weston had could be used to lure him in. So we went downstairs, waited for Sarah to go into the other room, then we asked Weston for his help. At first he refused, but then we offered to split the money with him 3 ways. Eventually Weston agreed, and so, game on! Starting off, Weston posted it on a comic book marketplace for half the price it was worth. Only $150,000! Unsurprisingly, it wasn't long before that snake Austin slithered into his messages. Great! We arrived at the meeting spot super early and hid behind a bush. 30 minutes later, and Austin still hadn't shown up, and I had a dead arm. Ouch! I whispered to Leah, "Do you think our plan was leaked?" She grabbed my shoulder and shushed me. Austin had arrived. He took ages to check the book, really carefully. When they finished the exchange, I jumped out of the bush and shouted, "Austin, there you are! Where's my money?" His eyes widened in terror, and he quickly tried to run off the other way, but Leah jumped out in front of him. She sneered and rolled up her sleeves, stepping towards him. "There is nowhere for you to run, jerk!" Austin was terrified and stepped back. Then I ran up behind him and snatched the comic out of his hand.
"Girls, look!
He turned pale and immediately turned and hurried away. He even lost a shoe en route, but he didn't dare to stop to pick it up. It was so hilarious watching him hobble off. Thank you so much, Leah. It felt so good to get revenge. Anytime. We clinked our glasses together. Girl power and all. Ugh, my head hurts so bad. Where's Leah? I guess she must have gone home. I went over to my closet. Where's the backpack with my money in it? I frantically turned my room upside down looking for it. Could it be? I called Leah, but there was no answer. That was it. Leah and Austin were definitely the same. Why did I have to be such a gullible idiot? There was a loud banging on the door, so I opened it. 2 huge guys were standing there.
"Hey, beautiful. Pay us back soon, or else."
Then they left. I freaked out, not knowing what to do. Find Leah and Austin? It's futile. I know it. So I started working like crazy. I delivered newspapers and milk in the mornings, then waitressed most evenings. I was so exhausted, but I had to find a way to pay off my debt before I drowned in it. Then one morning, Sarah came downstairs to find me asleep, face down on my piece of toast. She gently shook me awake, then told me she'd got me a paid intern job at her uncle's hospital. Yay! Thanks, Sarah. You're the best. The first day at my new job went well, so I decided to reward myself with a bagel and hot chocolate in the canteen. That's when I walked straight past her. Leah! She spotted me too and ran off, but I chased her into a dead end. "Where's my money?" "I didn't mean to do that. I'm sorry."
She sobbed out. Then she told me how the night that we'd been celebrating, she'd received some bad news. Her brother was in an accident and needed emergency surgery. Panicked, she took the money for his hospital bills. Are you tricking me? This is 100% true. She wiped at her tears. Maybe I felt a little bit sorry for her. But no, what she did wasn't cool. Besides, she could be lying to me. I mean, I did also use the ill relative's excuse to get money off my friends. So I dragged her to reception to check. Turns out she's telling the truth. Her brother is in a coma and the bills are obviously very expensive. What Leah did sucks, but she's all her brother has. So I guess I can kinda understand why she did that. So it looks like I've got to continue working my butt off for now. That weekend, I was about to leave for work when I opened the door to see those thugs back again. They shoved past me and started picking up valuables. I shouted at them to stop and that I'd get their money to them soon, but they didn't listen to me. Then they picked up Sarah's laptop. Oh no! Right at that moment, Leah showed up and demanded they stop right now. Then she proceeded to pay them what I owed them. Huh? What? How did she have the money? Well, it turns out Leah's brother woke up from his coma. They talked, and she found out his specific research had just won first prize in a nationwide competition. So he gave her the prize money and told her to pay off my debt. I was so ecstatic. I flung my arms around her and kept on saying thank you. Now I was debt-free. Phew! I could finally pay my friends back and put all of this behind me. Huh? What was that? We both looked outside. Isn't that Austin? But why does he look so frazzled? Oh, turns out 5 angry-looking girls are chasing after him. I looked at Leah, then we both burst out laughing. And that, guys, is karma.